Come on, Gully. Come. Come on, my friend. There you go. Come, make the boardwalk. Yeah. Come on, boy. Good morning to you. Yes. Today is the 1st of September 2021. This is the start of autumn. Good morning, boy. Enjoy your breakfast. Well, it's more or less the start of the morning chorus. I've taken a small video at our entrance there on the tree. The starlings always end up there in the morning when they come up from the seashore. They come up from down there. It's a beautiful horizon down there, far in distance, clear. That's the north. So the wind is gently coming in from this direction where I'm pointing the camera now. Beautiful, cool little sea breeze. The cloud cover would give an idea to me that this will be like this all day. It means that the atmosphere is cool, which it is. I would say maintaining somewhere between 13 and 16 degrees, maybe even 15 as max through today. And when you see the clouds so high, it means that the atmosphere is cooler between the ground and the clouds. And that thick dense means it will stay this way. So that's because of that travelling north air that comes in and cools the bottom between the ground and the clouds. If that north air wasn't there and it was still, the warmth from the ground will heat upwards. Because at present the ground is carrying a temperature of between 10 and 12 degrees. I do my temperature readings every day, you see, for my own climate research as well as nature's ability to grow and be resilient and create balance and biodiversity, bring nutrition, fertility to the ground. I do all of this kind of in my self-research and studies. In my limitations I am now, but it keeps me occupied with what I love. I love nature. And it's nothing to do with the human being, it's to do with nature. To understand nature better for me and the way we ought to in our human world, to live as one with. Here's my coffee, shortbread homemade, and my mug. That's for I throw a little bit here for my small birds, house sparrows. So I chew it, you see, and then I throw it out. It's a biscuit. Today I'm drinking decaf in the morning because I'm having an issue with caffeine. All of us do, depending on how much strain you've got inside your body. Because I manage pain, it's very easy to get a reaction to caffeine. In other words, your reaction to caffeine will be more intense, which would make you obviously have a short fuse. It will make you feel unsettled as to why you would have a short fuse. You don't wish people around you because you're unable to digest things very well. So it's better you ease off the caffeine or sweet and then just be yourself. Hello, my family, my children. Yes, here we've got some arrivals, haven't we? Oh yes, we've also got the neighbour who put his sheep back in here, just as everything is flowering. They're damaging our new fence, which we just put up in 2017, and it cost us quite a mint, in excess of £5,000 actually, with material and labour. And it's to last me for my life, but the rate it's going with them, the sheep using it as a rubbing and itching wall, you know. The fence is beginning to lean inwards towards us. And even though every other post is cemented, that was my request when I did it. And I have asked the people who have that croft to ensure they put another fence about half a meter to a meter on the outside of this fence, because this fence is ours. It's on our private property. This is not a tenure house lot, which means part of the tenancy of a croft. This is private. We hold the title, so which is a different. And even if you have the tenure and you have animals that are destroying some things within your croft, such as agricultural, you can ask the neighbor to put an extra fence, and they should, theoretically, unless they're stubborn and wish to bully you because they feel they are more powerful, which in my case, this is what's happening. They refuse to put a fence, which just stretches just from this corner here, just to this corner and down the front side. And that's about 50 meters there, and this is about 20 meters here. And they won't do that. Only one strainer it requires for them, just so their sheep rubs on their fence and doesn't destroy our fencing, which is actually on our land. It's not on croft land. So it's private property. So it's a real problem when people are not willing to resolve in simplicity and make things more complicated for ones who have health limitations. And because they've been here for a long time, yet not from the community, the person who gave us my croft, he's from this community, was born here, and his family. And there is a difference, yes. In farming, or people who deal with agriculture, farming, nature, all in one, they ought to not have an attitude. For the only attitude they begin to get is because of the high level of demand from the state, which is the demand what they are required to produce from the land, livestock or food, and a limited amount of assistance with funding for the base platform of infrastructure, which is to put the base infrastructure for the building of biodiversity on the land before you invest into agricultural practices or livestock practices, anything. But they don't do that. They just insist you go straight into production, and the land is so weak and so worn out after many centuries of doing it this way. That's why the yield is so low and puts a lot of pressure on the farmers, which is an unrealistic asking of the government in all they do. It's basically squeezing water out of a stone with an unwillingness to work together with anyone and not even themselves as a government. But they have got a curve of learning to come with nature, because they have got to understand that nature is the ultimate strength, ultimate decider. And it looks like the governments are not going to make the right decisions in COP26 in Glasgow, because they're going to make all kind of excuses, make all kind of sidetrack. Yes, the COP26 in the climate change meeting in Glasgow, they will look for alternatives to distract the mind with reverse psychology so people don't focus on it. You wait and see. But they don't realize, they're not willing to understand, they're not willing to accept, because they hold the reins of a lot of money, that their wish and will is to still continue economical growth at the forefront, instead of reducing economical growth and controlling the population of the lands that they manage. So in other words, in Britain, in other words, in Russia, in other words, in China, in other words, in India, in other words, in Europe. Only the lands that nature is able to work in balance with, and we're able to work in balance with as a human, as an individual, we live with the nature on a land. And we create the habitat like I'm doing here. And this is not possible smaller than 5 acres. It's not possible to live and survive from the land and provide. So you've got an understanding, which I've made many videos on it already. But there are many curves to this, because they don't realize the decision that they're coming to make now at this COP26 is, do you wish to have life, or do you wish not to have the existence of life? This is the basic and fundamental decision they're going to be making. There's no other way to look at it. It's not about economic gain, nothing else. It's climate change, we understand. But if they don't make the curve on our impact as a human on nature, which is the base platform for life and the capability and possibility for life to exist, and they refuse to accept, therefore continuing in their denial to understand that if they don't make drastic decisions now, nature cannot heal itself naturally as it normally does in all and so many ways. It requires the ability to find balance from the smallest habitat to the largest accumulation of different habitats in that natural environment. It all depends. But nature requires the balance. And with this balance, this harmony, fertility is able to come to the soil. Not only that, but it's able to do what it is doing, which is the lungs for our planet, which are the trees, the bushes, primarily. And also you have trees and bushes under the sea, which are called sea fans and other things. Sea mosses, sea grasses, yes. In the Caribbean we call it turtle grass. It's the same what's on land, it's similar to what's in the water. Lichen, for instance, it absorbs, so does the coral in the sea. So the governments have got to, this decision is critically to understand. It's either you wish the base platform for life to be able to continue being able to continue to create life, to be there for life, that life is possible. Life, the existence of life is possible. This base platform of life. Or, as we've been doing with the agricultural lands, but you want to do it on a wider scale, which is actually happening. You want to continue progressive madness of capitalism, growth and expansion, and not adhere like you did in 1990. Instead of hearing what you were told, you expanded growth instantly. World growth you expanded, which accelerated the climate change so rapidly to why we are here now. That is the main decision you're going there for. Do you want the platform of life to be able to harness and embrace life, or do you wish it not to be able to harness and embrace life, which means you're going to continue killing it with the present way you, as the governing powers of the world, are leading your nations, with nations do not wish to go that way. The people of these nations, they wish to have a peace, harmonious, healthy way to live, preferably on a piece of land which they can care for and produce and grow trees, that they can have a fireplace where they can heat their water, heat their home and cook with the wood, because this is the way it is supposed to be. The lies that they tell that the trees pollute the atmosphere, they do when they burn, but trees automatically redigest it when they are planted and growing. So the cycle of proper managing of nature, so it maintains its biodiversity, it maintains its balance first. So fertility and richness and maturity can come to the land and the natural environment. So food is able to be there for that natural life forms. And in the semi-natural life forms, which is where we engage with as humans, where we engage with nature, also holds its balance and its biodiversity. And this last statement is critical. It is to hold biodiversity where we interact with nature as well. It's called the semi-natural wildlife. So think about it, it's a decision. It's not your own decision. It's all the billions of different life forms that exist, other than humans, where the humans are the virus and the pest of this world. It's either you want life and the possibility for life to exist in its natural, balanced way, so everything is digested by nature as it should, which is only possible to digest natural things. only natural. It cannot digest unnatural things, which is what we produce as humans, majority. Unnatural fumes, toxins, materialistic items. Okay, I'm gonna have my coffee, guys. Don't like to do my video too late because people begin to wake up. And I don't want them to hear the truth because a lot of people are very against what I am for, which is life, sadly. But they don't understand it this way, do they? They think the governments make life. The governments don't. They make pain. But let's be in peace and harmony, all of us, and let's ensure we insist the governments are held to account with a document which they have to sign, each government around the world, and the commitments are to be very firm. Today is the 1st of autumn. Yesterday ended spring. Therefore today is the 1st of September 2021 and I'm Dieter. This is Dieter's Nature Diary, or you can call it Green World Croft Farm Diary, which is the name of my croft, Green World Croft Farm. Hey guys, I do my nature videos for those who are unable to come to nature, which are limited with their conditions of health, or people who just wish to get a little bit of my sharing of wisdom, seeing things and hearing things in a different perspective. To if you are, oh, look at this beautiful, beautiful environment here with the birds. Isn't it lovely? Oh my gosh. How can the governments honestly wish to continue destroying the possibility for life to exist? It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, just to remind you, peat does not digest the carbon emissions. It stores it, and when it dries it, when the land's dry where the peat is, it will be emitted at a great toxicity level. But what I call a cheap way out, by putting a plaster on the problem we've got with our pollutions we humans do, human way of lifestyle, it is to say that peat does store it and it's a good method. But it isn't. It's not a long-term solution. The best is the trees and the environment which the trees hold. Because where trees are is normally up to 1 to 3 degrees less in temperature than even water. Yes, in the summer, that's correct. And it also absorbs carbon, it stores it, digests it, such as the common alder tree. It cleans the soil, it cleans water, it makes oxygen, and so many more natural habitats which natural life forms which live on the trees and bushes, produce things that we don't even know, which heal viruses and bacteria. Well, closing off my video today for this topic of, COP26 and climate change and what governments are going to require to do again. I'm going to make a note on yesterday where Scotland claims it is leading in being green, and Greta Thunberg said no. I will agree with her totally because I live here. First of all, every month Scotland does not meet its commitment in cutting its emissions. It's way above. Before we left Europe, they were paying interest on the charges that they were paying because of the penalties of not meeting these cuts. And there are many countries around the world very similar. It's not about who is doing fast, it's that all of us are to work together on a very similar scheme, and funding is to be made available to the governments by a World Bank called a Green Fund for Climate Change and Climate Disasters and Nature Rehabilitating. I said it in other videos. There is also the issue that I've had this croft, and before I received this croft as a gift in 2018, as a gift, because someone knew I love nature and I wished to run my experiment from what we had in our garden out onto a bigger piece of land. I've been asking for assistance from the government ever since I got the croft. But before I got the croft, I was campaigning because I was doing and planting these trees in the garden here. And before we moved here, I was doing the same in the other place where we're living. And I was very disappointed that nothing was being done around the lands which are so bare just for farming of livestock. Nothing to bring nature there to create biodiversity on the land. Nothing to embrace nature, the natural wildlife. I wrote letters after letters, emails after emails to the Scottish Government attempting to figure out what's going on. And with my disability, my limitations mentally as well, it's very hard for me to understand things, particularly internally of the political structure and navigating through the government's offices. And for me, it was very difficult, and it still is. And one of the things I have not improved, not done anything on, and even to the point where I got the croft and I campaigned even harder, I made videos pleading for help. It is to put the base infrastructure on lands which desperately require the assistance to put this base infrastructure for life to exist, for biodiversity, for balance to exist, therefore biodiversity to take a grip of the natural wildlife. I've explained this on other videos. It pertains with putting in shrubs, bushes, trees in different areas, depending on what your plan is for subsistence farming or bigger farming practices on a larger piece of land. It's the same principle. You don't make too large, you make smaller farming areas and you embrace nature. So you have much more smaller farmed areas with nature between instead of huge lands of farming and very little nature. That's not how it works. Nature is supposed to be the dominant in wildlife around farming. And to the point, up to now, the government has not made it possible for me to access this type of funding, neither to plant trees or bushes. The funding is there. But why I say they haven't? Because you've got to put 100% outlay for anything you wish to get a grant for. Right? It's a loan, basically, because you have to pay 100% first and they pay you back 40% or maybe 60%. It depends on your location. And as we've had trees, but many years, I would say close to 150 years ago, they were the last trees on lands like farmlands. And the government has not stepped forward to do anything. I've written that they should have things tailored to one's circumstances and situations so people can interact and start taking action on getting nature's balance back on the lands that they are caring for. It doesn't matter if it's private or if it is lands like under tenancy for farming or subsistence farming or forestry. they've got to have these funds, which is to introduce the base infrastructure for life to exist and help to improve it on those lands. It's critical. And then if people want to have farming practices, they can then get a loan with interest free from the government to fund these farming practices. And when the farm has produced, they pay the government back. This is how it should work. And you have many small farms, I call small, maybe 10 hectares. The land that I have is 5 hectares. Sorry, 5 acres. And the 5 acres doesn't qualify me for getting grant schemes. Can you imagine that? I don't understand it. The idiocism, I call it. Anyway, look at the birds, they're eating the lettuce. See them? That's correct, lettuce. We place that there so that in the morning they can have lettuce to eat, particularly the house sparrows. That's me ending my videos for today. Of talking, that is. Let's come together and campaign for a greener world, a more peaceful world, a much healthier way to live. And presently, the path we're on, it will continue decaying like acid is under its base, its foundation.